How do you deal with emotions? Because this full moon in Cancer is going to bring everything to the surface. I'm Megan Mermaid, and this is your full moon in Cancer energy update. And this message is relevant from January 13th through January 28th. So the full moon in Cancer will be exact at about 2:26 p.m. on January 13th Pacific time. And this moon is conjunct to Mars. It's also sextile to Uranus, and Mars is trine to Neptune. So there's a lot of energy here to unpack. And the first thing that we want to consider is the energy of Cancer itself. Cancer is ruled by the moon, and so the moon feels right at home here. But Cancer can really be so dynamic and so fluid in the way that it expresses itself. It can represent our unconscious, just like the moon does. It represents our ability to connect with our heart and to nurture and nourish things, whether that be ourselves or others or our creative projects. It also can create this moodiness or passive aggressive energy when the energy of Cancer and the emotions that Cancer brings up for us are not being expressed or they're not being communicated. So because Mars is also retrograde in Cancer, this is really key. It means that this moon cycle is all about discovering how our emotions lead us into action, and whether that be inspired action or whether that be this almost like explosive energy that we can't control. So when we think of a moon in Cancer, it really has this vibe of wanting to feel at home, wanting to feel cozy. And so it might feel like you don't have as much energy, especially because Mars is retrograde in Cancer. We're having to reestablish how we take actions that support our self-care, that support our ability to mother and nurture others and also ourselves. So we might be reevaluating our routines. We might be reevaluating our self-care practices. And it also means that boundaries is something that's going to be really important. With that shadow side of Cancer, it can sometimes feel like we are over giving. And so what we need to be mindful of in this moon, because it's conjunct to Mars, is that there might be moments of conflict. There might be moments of turbulence because other people or ourselves have not dealt with those emotions. And so something may kind of come along and it's actually going to be a good surprise. I feel like even if we have a few moments of difficulty or conflict, it's all going to be for the better, because the sextile to Uranus is reminding us that good surprises are coming, positive disruptions. That might seem like an oxymoron, but it's true. This moon is full of positive disruption. It's disrupting the patterns that are no longer working for us. So what we also need to be mindful of is that we are not pushing ourselves. If we're pushing our bodies, if we're pushing our whatever it is too much with Mars in retrograde, that's when we're going to feel overly emotional. And maybe that's when we might act out based on our emotions. We also want to be mindful of emotional manipulation with this Cancer energy. So be very clear, be very direct with your speech, and notice if it feels like other people are manipulating their speech without judgment. Just be open to the way that people are expressing themselves and use your discernment. With this moon sextile to Uranus, it really means that we have an opportunity for good changes. We have a way to kind of shake up the ordinary, and it might also awaken us in some way to what is not working in our lives anymore. Since we're in Capricorn season, Capricorn is all about achievement and goals and leaving a legacy. And so this moon is sort of coming at that moment to say, hey, in order for you to achieve that legacy, your heart has to be in what you're doing. You have to feel emotionally fulfilled by the work that you're doing, by the relationships that you're in. And if something is out of balance, this is a moment where you can really step into a new timeline or a new path. Now, we also have Mars trine to Neptune, which is really beautiful energy. It means that we can take those emotions that we have and we can pour them into artistry, into creativity, into music, into dance. The nodes just moved into Pisces and Virgo. So as a collective over the next 2 years, we're really moving away from this energy of Virgo that's very analytical, very logical, very judgmental at times, and almost like a way of like trying to control all of this stuff. If you are in this space of trying to control everything, that's when you're going to feel out of balance. But if you can tune into this Piscean flow, this Neptunian energy, what I got with Pisces moving into the North Node is that now it's spirit over mind, that we really need to trust the flow of spirit. We need to trust that we are being led to exactly where we need to be. And so this Mars trine to Neptune is allowing us to become spirit led, to allow our emotions to lead us, our spirit to lead us into intentional, successful actions that are going to lead us back onto the path if we have somehow lost our footing. And so sometimes emotions get a bad rap. I mean, you think of someone when they're called emotional, right? It's not a compliment. You're so emotional. But when we break it down to what emotions are, they point us into motion. They point us into direction. So it's only when we're ignoring our emotions or we're stuffing them down or we're not actually honoring them or feeling them that they can get us into trouble and they can lead us in the wrong direction. So if we can really take this time to release, to forgive, to let go, there is such an opening here for forgiveness and peace in this moon. But it might take having some uncomfortable conversations or letting go of the past. You know, right now we're stepping into a space of human consciousness and human evolution that is unprecedented, and it can feel very scary. So I would also encourage you to really guard your heart over the next few weeks and notice if you are over consuming the news and the suffering and the energy of what is happening, especially if you're very sensitive. There might have to be these boundaries that you set for yourself of limiting your viewing of what's happening. And that doesn't mean that we're not aware of what's happening. I mean, right now, the California wildfires have created devastating conditions in California. Richmond, Virginia hasn't had water. There's places all over the country that are just going through difficulties. And, you know, as we step into this lunar cycle, this next few weeks, this is when the power dynamics are going to change in the US as Donald Trump steps into his presidency. And there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's the TikTok ban that's happening. So there's so many things that are kind of up in the air in the collective consciousness. And so we have to be mindful of getting sucked into those fear frequencies. And what we really need to recognize is that we were born for this moment. And as long as we're taking care of our heart and we're allowing divinity to guide us, we will always be okay. And we need to keep our hearts open and sit with the pain of others, whatever they're dealing with. But we also have to make sure that we are focusing on our own self-care so that we can do that without depleting our own energy, depleting our own resources, which is not going to help anyone. So I'm going to move into the cards and get some deeper messages of what to expect in this moon. First, from the tarot, we have the Knight of Pentacles. We have the King of Swords. And we have the Star. This is really beautiful because what I feel like it's kind of like as we sort of step into this space of like honoring our mind, honoring our authority in how we communicate and how we speak, when we are taking these small achievable action steps and starting to really create the groundwork, it means that this star outcome, this new beginning is coming for us. But again, we have to release the old to allow this new beginning in. We can't create a new pathway if we're holding on to the pain of the past. we have the flow. What was I just talking about with this Pisces North Node? I was listening to a talk today, and someone was sharing that rather than talk about the problem, talk about God. Rather than think about the problem, think about God. Rather than stress about the problem, call God in. So basically, fill your mind with God and let God consciousness lead you to the solution rather than making that problem so much bigger. And that's what I feel like this Neptunian influence is bringing to us, is this beautiful new way of looking at things, this ability to keep our hearts open, which is going to bring us to these powerful new beginnings. We have crown yourself. I crown myself as the star of my reality. So this is that moment where we have to remember that we are the leaders that we're looking for, that we are prepared, we are ready. There's no more time to learn more, do more. This is when we're supposed to just step up and say, okay, I'm here, I am ready. We also have generosity and perfect trust. The mermaid empowerment for generosity is whatever I want, I receive. And the mermaid empowerment for perfect trust is I trust and know the universe has got me. And so what these two kind of represent is one, I'm feeling like trusting in the moments where you're being asked to give, even if it feels like, oh my gosh, like, do I even have enough to give? That's actually this fallacy that we have to overcome, that we don't have enough to give, because as long as we're giving, we'll always be receiving and we'll even get more. And this trust card is just saying, trust the flow, be giving, be open, be generous in your forgiveness, be generous in your trust, be generous in your faith, be generous in your ability to release what is no longer serving you, because these new doors are opening and there's a lot that's happening quickly. But we need to make sure that we are on fire with our self-mastery, that we are doing all the things that we need to do to stay strong in our mind, in our bodies, in our hearts, so that we're not swayed by what's happening outside of us. You're being helped. Heaven is working behind the scenes to help you, even if you don't see results just yet. I feel like this is really important. Again, don't get stuck on the problem. Fill your mind with God. Know that that solution is coming through, and protection. You, your loved ones, and your possessions are safe and protected by heaven. So anytime those fear thoughts come in of like, oh my gosh, what if this happens? What if this happens? Or what if there's another disaster? Or are my family and friends going to be okay? Am I going to be okay? Are my loved ones going to be okay? Whatever it is, trust. God is in control. God is in control. And we are learning in this moon to trust our emotions, to trust our intuition. We have a pathway now to step into a deeper level of psychic and spiritual gifts, a new level of creativity, of artistry, of beauty. There's so much suffering that's happening in the world. So this energy is about, one, being with all of the people that are suffering, sitting with them in their pain, in empathy, in solidarity, in reverence, in love. And the other is that we need to balance all of this suffering out with love and beauty and creativity. So I'm going to pull from the Starseed deck next. And we have double mission and karmic relationships. So Lightworker, Starseed, and karmic relationships. So I feel like a lot of this forgiveness of this Cancer moon is letting go of the past. Maybe there's some relationships that you're working on right now that you're willing to release, forgive, whatever it is, but you don't know how. Maybe there are key karmic partners that are coming into your life or that are a part of your life right now that are triggering certain things in you. So just notice who is a key character in this chapter of your life and how it's kind of playing a role in what your mission is. Your mission as a starseed, your mission as a light worker, all of those things. And so it's just really important to, number one, be open to releasing and letting go of the old past pain of these karmic relationships. But the other is loving yourself enough to know that you don't have to let energies in anymore that are hurtful or that aren't ready to see you in your light and your glory and your exquisiteness. And that you can forgive someone and release them without holding on to bitterness or resentment or giving up on love entirely. So lastly, I'm going to pull from the Moonology deck. And we have, you are good enough. And look at the bigger picture. This is really interesting. We have full moon in Sag and full moon in Virgo. So I feel like we are letting go of this idea that we need to know more or do more or be more in order to be loved and validated and accepted. And look at this bigger picture is also allowing us to span out so that we don't get stuck and see all of the fear as a distraction or a way to kind of get caught up. We don't want to get caught up. This moon is really asking us to step into our emotional sovereignty and recognize that we are stepping into a new phase of human consciousness and human awareness. And it really is going to take a lot of trust in ourselves, trust in divine plan, trust in divine order, and trust in God that the best is yet to come. And it might feel scary when we're in it and we're in those moments and we see people that we love and that we care about that are going through difficulties or extreme suffering, or we're seeing the devastation on this planet. We have to stay focused on the bigger picture that love always wins. So if you want support, if you're on your awakening journey right now and you just wish someone could support you through it, I'm offering mystical mentorship sessions now, and I would love to support you. You can also receive a galactic channeled reading, and stay tuned for details on my 2025 curriculum for Mermaid Mystery School. I'm going to be teaching several curriculums this year about all sorts of interesting esoteric topics, and I can't wait for you to be a part of it. I love you so much. Have a beautiful, beautiful next 2 weeks, and happy full moon in Cancer.